So here is where we get very intentional about starting to actually plan your wedding. I know this is really exciting, so I'm sure you can't wait to jump in right away. So let's start discussing the type of wedding you're hoping to have or the vision you have for your wedding. So let's talk about the vision you have for your wedding. You have to ask yourself and you have to ask your fiance how you both envision your wedding. Hopefully there's similar ideas. So are you guys hoping to have your wedding in a church? Or are you hoping to have it on a beach? Like, this is important. Is it going to be a traditional wedding? Is it going to be a destination wedding? Also, is this going to be a massive wedding? Is it going to be a medium sized? Is it going to be a very small wedding? Or is it going to be extremely small with only those few friends and family there? Are you able to visualize any details? Do you know what you want your wedding to look like? Can you see it in your head? Can you match it up with photos that you find online? And this is another thought. Do you have a special venue or location that when you were growing up, you envisioned your wedding being there, like that special location? Also, do you have a theme in mind? There are so many themes of weddings, it's pretty ridiculous. It can be quite a range, ranging from like crystals and rhinestones and very girly, and could be more formal where it's like ball gowns and white gloves, and you have to wear a tux to it if you're a guest, or you have to wear a dress to it if you're a guest. Or it could be more of like a rustic feel. And it's just like there's such a range that it's very important that you come up with a theme, because everything will kind of revolve around that regarding decorations. Same with color scheme, that falls into that. As you're purchasing things, you want everything to match and make sure that it makes sense in your theme. So obviously, one of the very first decisions you need to decide on the detailing is traditional or destination. So let's talk about a destination wedding for a little bit here, because maybe that's something you're considering but haven't really looked into a whole lot yet. So a destination wedding is going to be a lot less, it's hands off. So less planning and to an extent less stress. So if you would just like to show up and have an event planned for you, this is a great option. But on the flip side, you may want certain people to be at your wedding and it just may not be feasible for them. There are going to be fewer people that attend your destination wedding than if you had it nearby where all of these guests are living. So take that into consideration. Less people are able to pay to go to a destination wedding, especially if it's international. They may not be able to take off a week of work, or they may not have the finances. So if you are having a destination wedding and you know that's the route you want to go, make sure you give your guests plenty of warning. I would even recommend letting them know closer to a year out from the wedding so they have time to save. They can mark it on their calendar and look at it as their family vacation even. So a destination wedding will potentially trim the guest list for you if you know that you want to invite everyone on your list so people don't get offended, but you know that all those people aren't actually going to pay to come to your wedding. Doing a destination wedding will make that guest list get cut without you doing the cutting. So that's a loophole, a little bit of a loophole. And it doesn't have to be like an international destination wedding for that to happen. It could be just in a different state than where all of your family or friends are living. A lot of family and friends won't want to go to a different state for your wedding even, so that even trims the guest list down a little bit too. But keep in mind for destination weddings that your location, your decorations, literally everything is going sight unseen, unless you're financially well off and can visit the resort or the destination wedding location prior to your wedding. But most brides and grooms don't visit the destination wedding prior to getting married, so everything's going to be sight unseen. unless there are videos you can watch of past brides and grooms that have been there or photos. There are oftentimes a lot of Facebook groups on certain resorts. So there might be brides with the resort name that you can get added into their Facebook group, or it's kind of like a great way to get behind the scenes information and talk to people who have been there, done that, have the experience, and have the wisdom and knowledge that you are looking for regarding that particular resort, because details will be different from resort to resort. But what's really nice about destination weddings is that there are all-inclusive packages for weddings. So there's different levels of wedding packages where there's more included in each package, but there are so many things included in those packages, which is very nice, and you know what you're spending right up front. If you have certain ideas, though, of decorations that you want for your destination wedding, this can get a little tricky because you may have to be using what the resort offers, because shipping and customs can make it extremely difficult to get the decorations there to the resort. So it can add fees, and it can be an extra hassle for you to have to jump through all those hoops to get those decorations there. So I highly consider using what they have at the resort for your decorations for your wedding. A lot of them have really cute options though, so don't worry about that. Something that you do need to take into consideration if you are having a destination wedding is you may have to have a legal ceremony in the States or at home before you go to the destination wedding, because it might be like a for show wedding only, meaning that the ceremony at the resort is not actually legal. I know you might be like, what? I have never heard of that. So what happens is there are a lot of bride and grooms that either get legally married before they go to that destination wedding, or get legally married after the destination wedding. So the destination wedding is in essence a show, and it's a representation of what's happening, but it's not legally your wedding in many scenarios. So take that into consideration, where you may need to have a small legal ceremony at home before or following the destination wedding, where the documents get signed, and that's a shocker for some brides. So that might be a complete turnoff for you, where you're like, no, for the wedding, I actually want to be getting married during that time. And same thing, if your parents are helping you pay for the destination wedding, they may be like, why would I pay all this money to go on a destination wedding when it's not actually the legal ceremony? So this is a conversation you'll want to have with your fiance and with your parents if they're helping pitch in financially for your wedding. I've also heard that blood samples are required in some countries. So if the idea of going to a hospital or getting your blood drawn in a separate country freaks you out a bit, just do your research. Also, if you are going to a resort for your destination wedding and you are wanting a professional to do your hair and makeup, you don't really get a chance to do a test run and see how they will do your hair and makeup. So I always suggest brides get their hair and makeup trials before a traditional wedding, so they know what they're actually going to look like on their wedding day, and they don't end up hating how someone did their hair or makeup. But since a destination wedding time frame is condensed, and you may not have a whole lot of time that you're at the resort, if you can, set up a trial run for your hair and makeup. But in these cases, there's a lot of humidity sometimes at these resorts, so your makeup, you may be sweating it off also, just so you know, or with humidity, if you're wanting curly hair, your hair, if it's straight like mine, is going to lose the curl really fast. Also, if you are planning on getting married on the beach, it can be very windy. So having an idea of a long, luscious, voluminous curls is not going to mix well with the wind. So maybe doing an updo or a fancy ponytail is a better route to go. There's a lot to think about. Also be aware that some resorts require you to be at the resort or in the country for a certain amount of days before they can marry you. So take that into consideration and ask them what their requirements are. You may also have to get a permit if your destination wedding is going to be held at a beach or at a park. So whether that's internationally or if it's at some park of some kind, you'll have to check into those details. However, a destination wedding can be awesome because you're getting a nice tropical vacation that could actually end up being cheaper than a typical wedding reception. Wedding receptions can be upwards of $10,000 or more, depending on if you go all out or not. And so obviously, if you're staying at an all-inclusive resort, you can get a lot for your money and get a nice vacation out of the deal and a wedding out of the deal for the same amount as a typical wedding reception. So that's also an option if you're wanting to have your honeymoon combined with your wedding as a way to save money. Just be aware that you may have family members and friends with you on your honeymoon. They may see you around the resort, and if you're okay with that, awesome. If you don't want that to happen, just be aware of that. You could always go to another resort if you wanted, on the same island or in the same country, or you could fly to a completely different island or country for your bride and groom honeymoon only. So there's a lot of things to think about. For a destination wedding, you may have to use or hire the resort's photographer. So otherwise, that could be very smart, because otherwise you'll have to fund and pay for a photographer to fly in for their travel expenses and their stay, and that adds up a lot. So I know some of you might be like, well, I have this photographer that I really want to use because I know that I trust them, I love their work, but it's going to be really expensive to fly them in. So just do your research on the quality of the resort photographer's work. You can ask them for photo proofs from past weddings or videos from past weddings. That way you can see what your wedding photos may end up potentially looking like. Another thing, if you've never been to this resort before for your wedding, you don't get to do any taste testing, so you just hope that everything is going to taste great. There also may be a little bit of a language barrier, so if that bothers you, take that into consideration, because I have watched some destination weddings where the officiant has such a strong, thick accent that you can hardly understand what he's saying, which there's nothing wrong with that because they're trying really hard. But as the bride or groom, is it important to you to really clearly understand what the officiant is saying? Because you may not be able to understand, and it's a very important day in your life that you hopefully want to actually be able to hear and understand what the person is saying. It also may make it complicated if you're repeating vows and you can't understand through this thick accent what the person's saying, so just be aware. So some questions that are for you and your fiance. Here you go. This is going to be some great kickstart questions for some conversations. So ask yourself, when you were a child, when you were a teenager, how did you envision your dream wedding? What did that look like in your mind? And then be sure to ask your fiance the same question. So as you think about your visuals of what you wanted your dream wedding to look like, And as you ask your fiance and hear what he has to say, then ask each other the question, how can we incorporate both of our ideas? Because it is actually both of your wedding day. Don't say only your ideas count or only my ideas count. No, this is your guys' day. You have to find some way to incorporate both of your ideas. So, the next question you need to ask yourself and your fiance is, do we see our ideal wedding as a huge party with everyone we know at it? Or do we see our wedding as an intimate gathering with only close friends and family? So you need to make sure that you're on the same page. You also need to communicate that clearly with your parents, because if you guys are wanting a small wedding, but your parents are wanting a huge wedding for you and they want to invite all of their friends, they need to understand the guest list is going to be limited, and just make sure that that's communicated very effectively and clearly. Also, another question that you need to ask each other, yourself and your parents probably, is tradition important to us or either of our families? So is tradition important to our parents? Or do we want our wedding to be entirely unique? There are so many weddings where people flip the script and make it entirely their own. And I think that that's really neat, because your wedding day should leave people, people leaving your wedding should be like, oh yes, that wedding totally fit their personalities. That was totally James and Jasmine's wedding. Like, you could see their personalities like intertwined into the wedding. Now, there are traditional elements of weddings where parents say, like, it has to be like this and you have to do this song or this order of things. And so there is a range for people. There's a spectrum of, okay, very traditional or completely outside of the box and unlike anything you've ever seen in a wedding. So try to gauge that for yourself, your fiance, and your parents and your fiance's parents, like what they expect out of it. Another question you can ask is, are there certain details about the wedding that are very important to you as a bride, to your groom? Like, what are you guys not willing to sacrifice? Like, are you so dead set on having a certain photographer that you will put a majority of your budget into the photographer because their work is amazing and you know you're going to get beautiful quality wedding photos out of your day? Like, if that's super important to you and you love wedding photos and that's most important because those photos are what's going to last the longest, then put a lot of your budget into that area because that's what matters to you. If there are elements and aspects of your wedding that don't really matter a whole lot, then that's good to communicate with your groom, because then you don't have to put as much focus and as much money in those areas for your wedding. And finally, here's another question that you need to discuss with your fiance, because as you're coming up with the details and the design and the vision for your wedding, there's a lot of money that goes into planning a wedding. Weddings are very expensive, or at least have the potential to be. So you need to ask yourself and your fiance, what are the biggest financial priorities that we have for the next 5 years of our life together? So some couples have plans to buy a house. Some couples have plans to have a child in the next 5 years. Or are there other big financial decisions that you need to account for? Because you may not want to spend an arm and a leg on a wedding if you're trying to save up for a house, like a down payment on a house. Or if you know you want kids right away, then maybe it's best to have a smaller, cheaper, more budget-friendly wedding so that you have money set aside for starting a family. So there are big factored questions and decisions to be made that will affect your wedding, and you need to account for all of this. So hopefully this helps you get a broader scale idea and also narrows down how to clearly communicate and get a good idea for the type and the vision of your wedding. Use those starter questions to begin to converse with your fiance and both sets of parents so that you're all on the same page. Communication and unity is very important, and these details are going to set the rest of the wedding planning in motion. So make sure that you both 100% are in tune with each other on this and are both excited about the decisions that you make. Like, you don't want to be a happy bride and have your groom completely upset that you want to do a destination wedding and he doesn't, but he just wants to make you happy. Like, it's just as much his wedding day as it is yours. So really make sure that you guys do some soul searching and make sure that you're both happy with the decisions that you're making, as well as make sure that you guys are making the decisions for you too, not just to people please and make your parents happy, but make sure that you're making these decisions based on what will make you happy, because it is your wedding day. And that's most important because it is your wedding day and your parents already had their wedding days. This is yours, so make sure it's your own and make sure you make decisions that make you both happy.
Beyond that, y'all, we don't just do life and relationship videos. We have our bonus Fridays where we put up life and relationship videos. We feel led to do a Friday video. But also, if you go to jamesandjazz.com, click on that videos tab, it'll scroll you down to 3 different sections of videos that we film. We do spiritual videos on Monday, where we've done topical stuff. Right now, we're actually doing Bible study with all the book of James. Now we're in the book of John. Then we'll go into another book and another book and so on and so forth as we feel led. So I think you'll really enjoy some of the spiritual videos that we have, and it'll help you to grow spiritually. We want to help you to grow mentally, spiritually, and physically.
And relationally.
Which leads me to the second topic, is physically fit videos. And we're trying to help you to get in shape, to work out. If you're planning for a wedding, you still got to get those workouts in. That'll help you to have more energy and just feel better about yourself. So whatever you're doing in life, it's so important to do your body a favor and work out. And I know that a lot of people don't have a lot of time. Maybe you don't want to drive to the gym. Well, we've done a lot of stuff right here at the house in our studio here. We've done workouts with dumbbells, workouts with resistance bands, cardio in place. We've done a little bit of kettlebell stuff. So we're showing you how you can work out at home with the equipment that you have. They are full-length workouts, so you work out with us. And then there's also instructional videos where we show you the exercises quickly. You can take notes and do it on your own time. But I think that these videos will bless you. And then on our final section, our final tab when you click on videos is that life and relationships. As I said already, that is our bonus Friday videos where we talk about what's going on in our life, which the wedding was going on in our lives, and that also relates to relationship stuff. So life and relationships is a great tab as well. We have our how we met video in that section, and a lot of other different stuff. We have our wedding, we have our proposal, bachelorette party, all that different stuff. So you guys can learn a little bit about us and what we've done in life. And beyond that, when you're on our homepage, just if you scroll to the top of the bottom, you're going to see our social media links. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, be sure to follow and like, and YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube. And when you scroll to the bottom of the page, you're going to see our subscribe to our email list. Encourage you to do that so you can see when new courses come out, because I think she's thinking about working on new courses.
Yes.
And you can also, on the bottom of that homepage, you can book us to come and speak at speaking engagement. We look at chapels at Christian schools, and maybe you want us to come and put on a workout somewhere, or speak at a Christian retreat, whatever it may be,
or
a conference. Yeah, we would love to do that. So just send us the details in the book us section. And anything I'm missing, my love?
Yeah, if you would like to partner with us, we would appreciate all of your prayer for our ministry. And then you can also partner with us financially if you feel led. No obligation, but on our website, jamesandjazz.com, there's a tab up at the top that says donate, and it instructs you on how you can donate via PayPal, Patreon, or Venmo. So thank you. Every little bit helps. And yeah, we love you guys, and we hope that this video encourages you to plan the wedding of your dreams stress-free to your dream man, and it's gonna be great. Enjoy.
All right,
Love you
take her
guys.
easy, y'all.